Hi everyone, my name is Sara Davis and today I'm going to talk to you about interviews and give you a little bit of guidance on how to best perform at an interview. I'm going to be breaking it down into 4 steps. First step being research. It's really important to research before you attend any interview. Second step, prepare and practice. The third step would be what to do on the day, and the fourth step, the actual interview. Congratulations! After spending many hours completing a great application form, you've secured yourself an interview. So you've already impressed them so far by your written application. Now the most important thing is you need to match that written application in person. So it's all in the preparation. Step 1, research. There are 4 points here you need to research yourself. That might sound a bit odd, but please do research yourself. Read over your CV and your application and the skills and the experience that you've provided to the employer. Research the company. Impress them with how much you have read about them, what made you interested in working for them in the first place, and find out some really interesting snippets to talk about in the interview. Research the position. You applied for this position, so now you need to be telling them why you match every single thing that they need in that job. And also research the industry, especially if it's a new field for you. It could be a completely different field, so research the industry and wow them with your knowledge. Whilst doing this research, make sure you make some bullet points and write it down so that you can take it with you for the interview. You can also read over it in your spare time, and you can read over it the morning before your interview as well. Step 2, prepare and practice. You can never prepare too much. Practice answers to commonly asked generic questions and also competency-based questions that require you to use an example when given your answer. This is using the STAR method, and your coach can provide you with a list of sample questions for this. Look at the job description and the person specification and see what the essential criteria is for that role and make notes on how you match it. This is really key. Think about who you are now professionally. How much experience have you got? What relevant skills do you have that are applicable to the role you've applied for? What qualifications do you have that are applicable to the role? What are your personal qualities? How do your friends and family describe you? And why should they employ you and not the next person? Choose clothes to wear that you're comfortable with, that make you feel comfortable. You're not too hot and you're not too cold. And wear something that makes you feel quite empowered. If you've got a suit, I really would recommend it. And for men, please wear a tie. It does make it look really smart. And remember, an employer will think that if you've taken pride in your own appearance, you're going to take pride in the job that you do. And a little tip, don't overdo the perfume or the aftershave. It can be a little bit overwhelming. If you've been asked to take certificates along, like ID, paperwork, etc., put them in a folder, make them look really nice and neat and tidy. And you can also pop your notes in there as well that you can take into the interview. Plan your journey beforehand. It's always good to do a trial run if you can. Make sure that you know what the traffic's going to be like, where you're going to park, are the buses regular. So make sure that you are going to be there on time. The last thing you want in the next day before your interview is to be late. Have an early night the night before if you can, and try and listen to some maybe relaxing music or go out for a nice walk. We don't want you yawning in an interview, so try and have a good sleep. So, step 3, on the day. I'd recommend that you arrive in the vicinity of the job interview around 30 minutes before, so you're there nice and early. You can sit in the car or you can have a little wander around and just take some deep breaths. And then I would recommend that you turn up to reception about 10 to 15 minutes before the actual interview. Now remember, first impressions really matter. So as soon as you walk through that door, you walk through with confidence, with a smile on your face, and you walk up to reception and politely ask for the person that you're meant to be seeing. It's a handy tip here, make sure you know the name of the person before you go up to reception as well. While sat in reception and you're waiting for them to come and get you, you could either glance over your notes, you could just take some deep breaths, you could just look around, and also if they've got any brochures, any company brochures there, you could have a little flick through those to show your interest. So do whatever you feel comfortable with. When you call for interview, remember again, the person that's coming out is probably the person that's interviewing you, so it's really, really important to have a good first impression. So stand up and say, how lovely to meet you. My name is Sarah. Thank you so much for seeing me today. Strong handshake shows confidence as well. They'll be judging you from the first minute they see you. So they'll be weighing you up, looking at your posture, looking at how confident you are, looking at how friendly you are. So the first 7 to 10 seconds are really important for an employer when they first meet you. They'll be looking at your words as well. They'll be seeing what words you use. They'll be looking at the tone of your voice. So just remember, all of your body language is really important. Step 4, the actual interview. A little tip here, don't think of it as an interrogation. It's just a conversation. You're having a conversation with a person or a couple of people who really want you to do well, who really want to find out all about you and see if you're a good match for their job. So now is the time to blow your own trumpet. And if you don't blow it, nobody else will. And if you don't do it, the person that's before you and the person that's after you may blow theirs, and you're just going to become a distant memory. This is where you have to stand out. You need to make those people that are interviewing you think you are the right person for this job. So most of the time, the interview will start off with something like, so tell me a little bit about yourself, or what made you apply for this job, or even what skills and qualities have you got that makes you the right person for this job. Essentially, all of these questions are exactly the same. What they don't want to know is your back history. They don't want to know what you did when you were a teenager, how many dogs you've got, what you do on a weekend. What they want to know is, what are your key selling points? This should last just about 2 minutes. So please don't go into too much depth. Save that for later when you get the nitty-gritty questions. Your 2 minutes should be made up of, number 1, who you are. Number 2, why you qualified. And number 3, why you're here. So focus on your biggest selling points and ask yourself, if you were the interviewer, what would you want to hear to perk your interest? So for example, I'm going to read off a piece of paper now. I've made up an example of somebody who might be going for an interview and they've been asked that very question. So, well, I spent the last 5 years developing my customer service skills in a manufacturing environment. I recently designed a more concise training package and mentoring scheme for new starters to improve productivity. I thrive in customer service and recently won an internal award for my innovative customer feedback process. Even though I'm happy with my current employer, this role with you really excites me, as it will involve leading on continuous improvement and the customer experience in a larger capacity. And with my experience and my qualifications, I feel I would be a really great fit. Try and focus on what you did that was above and beyond. What are your accomplishments? What impact did you have? What was the result of your actions? This goes back to the STAR model. So what happens when you're asked a question and you haven't got an example? It's happened to all of us, hasn't it? It's quite scary. But the main thing here is, don't get flustered. There really is no need to get flustered. Take a deep breath and simply ask them if they wouldn't mind repeating the question. There's nothing wrong with that. And you could say something like, would you mind repeating the question for me, please? Because I want to make sure that I give you the best example that I can. By the time they repeat the question, that gives you a chance to refocus, and then you may be able to find a really good example to answer that question with. And don't forget, once again, they're looking for STAR model. So they want to know, what was the situation? What were the tasks that needed doing? What actions did you take? And what was the end results of your intervention? If you really haven't got an example, again, don't panic, don't get flustered. Because what you can do here is you can give a hypothetical answer. So you could say, well, even though I haven't done that in my current role, this is what I would do. If I was in this situation, the tasks I assume I would need to do are A, B, and C. The action I would take is A, B, and C. And the end result would be the impact. So don't panic. I thought I'd give you an example of answering a competency-based questions with the STAR model. I'm going to give you a bad example first and then a good example of how it should be. It's going to be a very basic question. We don't want it to get too complicated at this moment in time. So the question could be along the lines of, could you tell me about a time where you have provided excellent customer service? So a not so good example would be, oh, well, you know, every day I deliver good customer service. I meet my customers and I'm always polite and friendly with them. So pretty much do it every day. You've not given them a specific example there. You've just said that every day you deliver excellent customer service, but you've not actually gone into any detail. So a good example may be, so whilst I worked at Next, I was working in the store in the centre of the city, and a customer came up to me and asked me if we had these jeans in a 16 long. So I went up and had a little look on the rack, and they'd said they'd already had a look, so I said I'd go and have a look as well. So I took them over, we went through, and they were right, there weren't any size 16 long there. So what I did was I said, would you like me to check some of the other stores for you? So I ended up going back to the till, and I searched online to find if there was one in one of our other stores. I found out that one just on the outskirts of the city had some jeans in, but they only had one pair. So there was a risk that if the customer got there, that maybe they wouldn't be there when they got there. So I said, would you like me to phone the store and see if they could keep them aside for you? So they were really, really, really happy with that. So I phoned the store and I said that I had this customer that would like to purchase them and could they please put them aside? And then at the end of that sort of support that I gave the customer, they were really happy, and they thanked me very much for my support. And the funny thing was, the following week when I was in the store, the very same person came in to do some shopping, and they came up and acknowledged me and thanked me again for my help. So it was really good because we got some repeat business out of it as well. So that's a good example. It's a better example because it actually gives the impact of my support. So the impact of my support was that the customer came back and that they were really happy with the service they'd received. Have some STAR answers available so that you're quite prepared for any questions that might come up. You could do that at home. You could think about what questions potentially you've had in the past that you've struggled to answer, or you can try and work out what questions you might be asked in this particular job role, because you can look back on the job description. Some questions or examples could be something like, tell me about a time where you've had to change your priorities in order to achieve a last-minute urgent task for your manager. What resources did you use? How did you ensure other tasks were managed? And what was the end result? Another one could be, give me an example of when you've had to use your initiative to improve a process or a product or a sales target. Again, they'll be looking for the impact of the actions. So why not sit down with your coach and go through and get some really good examples ready for when you have your next interview. So you've answered all the questions at your interview now, and they say to you that dreaded question again, do you have any questions to ask us? This is where your company research may come in handy. Have you got any burning questions here? Because that's going to show again that you've done your research. So for example, you may say something along the lines of, I was really interested to read that you're branching out into other countries. Could you tell me a bit more about that? And would there be any opportunities to support in that development? Or you might sort of say, so if I was successful, what would the induction look like? Does it involve shadowing other departments so that I can understand the bigger picture of the organisation? These types of questions suggest that you're really keen to be hired. A no-no is definitely don't ask what the salary is, unless they bring it up. They may say to you, what are your salary expectations? But don't ask yourself, you tell me what I'm going to get paid. So at the end of the interview, stand up, lean in for another handshake, another firm handshake, and maybe say something like, thank you so much for your time today, John. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you and learning more about ABC Limited. I look forward to hearing from you soon. And you can also follow this up with an email when you get back home or the following day if you've had that kind of correspondence from them. Hopefully that's given you a little bit of an insight into interview techniques. Have a word with your coach if you need any more support, and good luck.